Right now, the National Weather Desk, California burning. The park fire multiplies in size, leading to evacuations and concerns about when it will finally be contained. Right now, the National Weather Desk, California burning. The park fire multiplies in size, leading to evacuations and concerns about when it will finally be contained.
We actually now have to move. We have to back up. The fire's moving our direction.
While wildfires spread in several other states, including Utah,
there's been 679 fires in Utah this year.
We're watching for possible new trouble in the tropics later this week and the threat of severe storms this afternoon, plus a closer look at the role climate change plays in all of it. And we'll also head to the vineyards to see how a lack of rain is impacting the upcoming grape harvest.
Unlike most agriculture, no rain is really good for grapes.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. The massive park fire is not only the largest wildfire in California this year, it's also among the largest in state history. It has now burned more than 360,000 acres, which is bigger than the city of LA. Right now, it's just 12% contained. Thousands of people have been evacuated from 4 counties. Authorities say a man has been arrested, accused of starting the fire by pushing a burning car into a ravine. The park fire is one of hundreds of wildfires burning across the West from Washington to Arizona. Our team in Redding, California is covering all aspects of the park fire. Nazia Javid leads our team coverage.
We are in an evacuation order zone. This is in Paynes Creek in Tehama County, where you can see behind me so many hot spots just smoldering into the air. The billowing air is glowing orange as the fire remains active tonight. I'll step out of the way so you can see what it looks like all around us. And you can see behind me just some of the damage that has already been done. This area completely charred and burned over. All that is left behind is destruction.
These are actually from the hand crews that are building out these kind of fire lines. They're digging it, they're cutting away shrubbery, and then they're using that shrubbery and these fires that they're lighting themselves to burn away the fuel that the park fire could use.
So what we want to do is protect the infrastructure of Highway 32 and create that buffer between us and the fire.
However, as he took me and several other journalists to the first spot, just north of Lomo, the wind shifted and the fire took off again. You can see flames already have made it to the other side of the highway. So we actually now have to move. We have to back up. The fire's moving our direction, so I need to keep moving. It really goes to show how quickly a fire like this can change and spread.
Fire crews are working to put out the wave of wildfires that have engulfed Utah. Yesterday, the Coleup fire in Washington County grew over 600 acres. Tonight, it's 40% contained. And on Friday, about 3 miles west of Marysville, another fire is burning, separate from the massive Silver King fire that scorched over 5,000 acres and forced some evacuations. The Diker Hill fire near Colville started Wednesday afternoon. It was estimated estimated at over 200 acres. As of tonight, it's 100% contained. According to Utah Fire, there's been 679 fires in Utah this year, burning more than 40,000 acres.
In Oregon, 44 wildfires have burned more than 1 million acres. Right now, the focus is on the microwave tower fire. It jumped containment lines on Sunday, burning railroad tracks next to I-84. 3,000 people have been told to get out, with another 22,000 told to be ready. Up in Washington state, the Pioneer Fire has now burned more than 33,000 acres. It's just 10% contained. Evacuation orders are in place right now for people living in one small community. And we are also getting a better look at the wildfire devastation in Jasper National Park in Canada. Officials estimate 1/3 of all structures in the town were destroyed. Many homes have only their foundations left. The good news is that all critical infrastructure was saved. The flames burned about 123 square miles of the park. That's about the size of New Orleans. The smoke from all those wildfires is leading to air quality alerts from coast to coast. The worst air is out west, with unhealthy levels in several places, including northern Utah. But that smoke is causing issues in the east as well, with orange alerts around the Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and also Harrisburg regions. And smoke from wildfires can also impact sunrise and sunset. Meteorologist Josh Kozlowski looks at how smoke way up in the atmosphere can change the color of the sun.
Well, at one point or another, you've probably seen a cool sunrise or sunset like this one, right? And it's probably due to some high thin clouds in the atmosphere. But sometimes, if you don't have any high thin clouds, it can actually be forming these colors because of smoke from wildfires. High in the atmosphere, the smoke is from, in this case, Canadian wildfires floating south through upstate New York. Take a look at those oranges and reds going on there, some very cool colors. And what's happening in the atmosphere basically is all the short wavelengths of light, like blues, are being absorbed by the particulates, the smoke in the atmosphere, and what's left, the longer wavelengths of oranges and reds, and that is what you see here with this particular sunset. If you widen out this view, you can take a look. There's blue sky up to the top of the screen there. That's because the light is not traveling to that part of the atmosphere. For the National Weather Desk and the Weather Authority, I'm meteorologist Josh Kozlowski.
Well, most wildfires in the U.S. are caused by humans, but lightning is another common cause. Meteorologist Matt Monroe looks at how lightning can spark wildfires.
Let's talk wildfires for a second. Wildfires are actually 80% caused, believe it or not, by human intervention. The other 20%, the vast majority, is caused by dry lightning. So what exactly is dry lightning? Well, we have thunderstorms where the rain doesn't reach the ground, but the cloud-to-ground lightning unfortunately does. Those lightning bolts reach 50,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and when they hit dry trees and brush, fires usually, unfortunately, are the result. And here's one example here. Gold Complex fire in the Sierra Nevada of California. Picture is courtesy of the Truckee Meadows Fire Department. We had 4 lightning strikes coming out of one of those dry thunderstorms, and each one of those lightning strikes created a separate fire. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. And together, they are termed the Gold Complex fire. So again, dry lightning, super dangerous in the western part of the country this time of the year in summer into fall.
And tracking the tropics this morning, and for the first time in weeks, there is activity in the Atlantic Ocean. The National Hurricane Center is tracking a disturbance northeast of South America. It has a 50% chance of developing into a named storm over the next week. It's still really early, but the storm could bring heavy rain to the Caribbean as well as Florida. We'll be keeping a close eye on this all week. The threat of severe weather also returns this week. There is a slight risk of severe thunderstorms this afternoon and also evening in the Dakotas. The same risk extends throughout the day for portions of Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, including Louisville and also Evansville. Alabama has recovered from severe weather over the weekend. Heavy rain turned these roads into rivers across the Birmingham region. Many highways were shut down as well yesterday because there was simply just too much water. There was also scattered power outages, but most people are back online this morning. And now turning to West Virginia, where nearly the entire state is dealing with some level of drought, from abnormally dry conditions to extreme drought. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, Daniel Burbank spoke to some farmers about how these conditions are affecting their crops.
I'm really surprised about the currants this year.
The Burdettes are on their way to check the fields.
A little sour, but it's going to be great.
This rain gauge was completely empty during our visit, an unfortunate sign this season. Several government agencies reported this is West Virginia's 12th driest year on record.
It's been pretty extreme. Plus the heat, the temperature, and the high humidity. So it's everything together. So it's like the perfect storm.
Friday, Governor Jim Justice issued a state of emergency because of dry conditions. This now allows the state's emergency management division to respond to drought-related issues.
There's one thing the Burdettes say, and that's regardless of the drought conditions, West Virginians, like this blackberry, are always resilient.
I think it's passion. I mean, you'll find with every farmer that that's what it is. I mean, there's so many farmers, and that's the one thing we all have in common.
Burdette pointed out they've had a record year of sales because of early harvests, but a couple Jackson County, West Virginia farmers told me over the phone some of their corn crops are suffering and need moisture. Burdette says their irrigation system is helping keep the crops alive, but without additional rainfall, this year's grapes and next year's blueberries could be impacted.
And coming up from the National Weather Desk, Maryland has also been dealing with drought conditions, but grape growers in the area say it's welcome news. We'll find out why. And we'll look at how a warming climate is impacting hurricane season.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with Look at the Northeast. Temperatures today will be seasonably cool throughout New England. We have clouds and a few showers with temps running in the 70s. Best chance for hitting the 80s will be back in New York and through portions of New Jersey. This little storm system backs in on us today. A steady rainfall is expected through parts of southern New England. Elsewhere, there'll be a few showers. Notice how this little system starts to pull away on Tuesday. Tuesday will feature partly sunny skies with a chance for a few showers and thunderstorms.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Your Monday is shaping up to be pretty decent. It's going to be a little warmer across the area, also a little more humidity to come in. A couple showers and thunderstorms will likely pop up towards your afternoon and evening. We'll have better rain chances likely coming towards Tuesday, though. All right, so temperatures will warm up depending on where you are. If you get hit with a rainfall, it'll be a little bit cooler, but we could see as warm as 92 degrees or so. As we move into Tuesday, a little bit cooler with the rain around.
I'm meteorologist Vetus Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs. It's going to be a hot one over in Nashville, looking at about 90 degrees. Even hotter in Tupelo, 95. Mobile, 92 degrees compared to a little bit cooler air. Raleigh at 81. Charleston, 88. Jacksonville, hot 90, as well as Tampa. It looks like we are seeing a mixture of sun and clouds across parts of the south from Jackson to Birmingham. We do have some spotty showers moving across the Tennessee Valley. A few heavy rainmakers as we go through the afternoon. Atlanta and then up towards Raleigh, mostly cloudy. And then Jacksonville, maybe a few late evening showers.
The National Weather Desk.
Drought has been an issue in Maryland in recent years, but the dry weather is not all bad news. Meteorologist Amy Aronson looks at why grape growers in the region are thankful for the lack of rain.
Unlike most agriculture, no rain is really good for grapes. So if you look at these clusters here, these are a little bit smaller. The berries are about as fully developed as they're going to get at this stage. And you'll notice that they're much, much smaller than a table grape. And a nice loose cluster like this means that when the grapes start ripening, they're going to get even ripening throughout the grape.
James Pritchard says the best wine comes from these small grapes.
So with wine, we're looking for nuance and concentration in the profile of the grapes. So we get more of that when the grape berries are smaller, the skin to juice ratio is higher, and we just make better wines.
When there's too much rain without breaks, the grapes suffer.
What happens is because the grapes are starving of water, they're then going to drink all the water, and then we often see the berries swell too quickly, the skins are brittle, and then they split, and then we can't make wine from them.
When tropical systems move into Maryland, there's not too much vineyards can do.
Pray. There's nothing you can do. It's Mother Nature. So what we do here is that we grow 13 different varietals. Each grape is at a different stage, or each varietal is at a different stage throughout the process. So by growing different ones, you're basically hedging the fact that you may, that we should be okay with some stuff, basically. Yeah.
Cheers from Bordy Vineyards in Hydes, Maryland. I'm meteorologist Amy Aronson.
And do you know when the warmest part of the summer is in your area? Meteorologist Jeff Exline recently posted on social media about it, and most people were surprised by the answer.
If you're growing tired of the heat and humidity of summertime and you're clamoring cozy fall days with football, I do have some good news for you. For much of the country, we've already surpassed the warmest part of summer. Check out this map here, courtesy of Brian Brettschneider. He's a climatologist, and most of the country, with the exception of those areas that are colored in purple and red, have already reached the hottest part of summer. Those other areas will reach it typically in early August. Now, there's a seasonal lag when it comes to our seasons. Typically, our warmest part of summer is a month after the summer solstice, which is the longest amount of daylight of the year. Well, why is there a lag? Well, typically because, it has to do with water. Most of the world is covered in water, more than 71%. And it takes longer for water to heat up. Thus, there's that lag going on. That's why when you boil water on a stove, right, the pan gets hot before the water inside. It takes longer for that water to heat up. That's why there's a lag to our seasons. Typically, the warmest part of summer is 1 month after the summer solstice.
Climate change is having a big impact on weather. Meteorologist Jenna Warner looks at how a warming climate is impacting hurricane frequency and also intensity.
Well, hurricanes also need two other ingredients to thrive. One of those is moisture, and that is likely to increase over time as well with climate change. But the other ingredient is wind shear. It needs low wind shear to flourish in the environment, and wind shear is a measure of the wind speeds and direction as you go higher up into the atmosphere. Now, some studies do show that wind shear is likely to increase over a majority of the Atlantic. So what happens when a hurricane encounters this area of high wind shear? Well, that hurricane moves into it, it starts to break apart, and then eventually it dissipates. So that means that over time with climate change, we're actually likely to see a decrease in frequency of tropical storms and hurricanes. But you'll notice on this map too, there are indices of low wind shear also. So if a tropical system does find that sweet spot, it'll have warmer ocean waters, a lot of moisture, and low wind shear. So that means that the systems that we do see are more likely to rapidly intensify, and we're also more likely to see major hurricanes out of those systems. Now, the question in everyone's minds, what does this mean for landfalling hurricanes or tropical storms? Well, there's no way to tell how that will change with climate change. That is unpredictable. But what we do know is we're likely to see a decrease in overall frequency of tropical activity, but the storms that do form are likely to be more intense.
Well, have you ever wondered why sometimes there will be a thunderstorm in one area, but close by the sky is basically clear? It has something called to do with the cap. Meteorologist Les Stills explains.
Well, let's talk about why some areas and some counties have thunderstorms and others don't. A lot of that has to do with what we call the cap. Most of the sun's energy is directed down towards the surface, the ground levels, and as you warm up through the day, we send these bubbles of air up into the atmosphere here. As long as the temperatures decrease with height going up there, we'll continue to see those air rise. They'll hit eventually a warmer layer of air. That kind of sits as the cap. Doesn't allow the warmer air to continue upwards because you're losing that decreasing with height. But when we see the cap thin out or it gets sufficiently hot enough that we reduce that level of the cap there, that's why we get those showers and storms bubbling up across the area. So it just may be one county has a little bit thicker cap than another county does because of what's happening going on in the upper levels of the atmosphere.
Now, most people know that the weather is at higher elevations, like on mountains, is different than the weather at lower elevations. One of the reasons for that is something called an orographic lift. Meteorologist Lindsay Storrs recently posted about it on Instagram.
Here in Utah, summertime thunderstorms tend to pop up first over our mountains. Do you know why that is? When warm, moist air like we tend to have in the summer months hits a mountain, it's forced to go up and over that mountain. As the air rises, it cools, and the water vapor in that air condenses into a cloud and eventually precipitation. When the air passes over the mountain, it sinks, and the air mass then warms and dries out, leaving a shower or thunderstorm just right over the mountain. We call this process orographic lifting, and that's the reason that thunderstorms pop up over the mountains first in the summertime.
Dust devils look cool, but how do they actually form? Meteorologist Dante Ricky explains.
Dust devils can resemble tornadoes, but in fact, the science behind them is much different. This video caught in Chesapeake, Ohio from Mary Beth Hill Quarry on a rather hot and dry summer afternoon. Now, the beginning of the dust devil comes from the sun, believe it or not. The air is heated up unevenly in comparison to the ground. As a result of that, the warm air rises, and this starts a little circulation of low pressure down at the ground that we call an eddy. From the ground and going up, that warm air rises and enhances the circulation or swirl from the bottom up. There's no cloud or funnel cloud, per se, to produce this, and this dust devil will pick up debris, dirt, anything on the ground in its path, and it will even strengthen for quite some time. Once it hits a pocket of cooler air, though, more stable conditions will cause that swirl to come to an end. But remarkably, this can happen even on very good weather days with the sun coming out as well.
And time now for a short break, but first we soar over beautiful Montana.
Hello everyone, I'm meteorologist Sarah Converse. It's going to be active across the Midwest as we see a bunch of different clusters of thunderstorms moving through places like Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. But do note we do have some very hot temperatures to the west. Places like St. Louis under an excessive heat warning, 93 for St. Louis today, 95 in Kansas City, Wichita 102 degrees. And we'll have showers and thunderstorms continue through the Ohio River Valley with warm temperatures overnight.
Good Monday morning. I'm meteorologist Joe DiCarlo. Look at our forecast across the region and a typical summer day here in late July. We'll start in the 70s. We'll be in the 90s to even some lower 100s out towards West Texas. So it's going to be hot and mainly dry across the region on your Monday. And that's going to stick with us throughout the week. Here's your Tuesday, starting off with temperatures in the 70s. We're back in the 90s and those triple digits again out to the west. Have a great Monday.
Good morning. I'm meteorologist Rebecca Stevenson. Here's what's happening across the west. A big cool down happening over the entire west with temperatures falling into the 60s along the coastline and rainfall at the driest time of year in the Pacific Northwest. That is helping these cool temperatures move in. However, with the wind and dry conditions we still have, so across the Great Basin, critical wildfire danger, while cooler rainfall pushes eastward, helping out the fire concerns in the north. That's the scene from here.
the National Weather Desk.
Chances are you have never seen a white groundhog, and there is a reason for that. They're extremely rare. Many people confuse albino groundhogs for white groundhogs, but they are in fact different things. Meteorologist Teresa Carter has more on this unique rodent.
When you think of groundhogs, you typically think of dark brown fur. What is not a common sight is one that has a white or blonde fur coat. This groundhog is likely leucistic, meaning that he has a partial loss of pigmentation, which causes his unique coloring, but not in his eyes. Now, what is even more rare is albino groundhogs, which are white and have pink eyes. Now, the probability of encountering a true albino groundhog, well, is a 1 in a 10,000 chance. Regardless, seeing a white groundhog, though, is still pretty cool.
And we love to share your weather content on the air. You can find us on all your favorite social media platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok. Just search the National Weather Desk. We'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Monday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.